the issue's coming from a much deeper level. So when you just take the mindset of addressing skin disease topically, it never works. It just suppresses the symptom for a very short period of time, and then they come back.
The medications that we hear the most about are actually Apoquel and Cytopoint.
Those are all based to suppress the immune system. I don't know any animal that can have, really good quality of life for long periods of time on immune suppressive drugs. They are not long-term solutions. It's just that simple. If you allow this to keep happening, and then you give more drugs and more drugs and more drugs, and all that stuff's getting filtered into the bloodstream, the body finally goes, holy, we don't know what to do, so we're just going to attack everything. I feel personally that most of the diagnosed allergies are misdiagnosed. They're not true allergies. They are either...
Is your dog constantly scratching or dealing with frustrating allergies that never seem to go away? Today, we're uncovering natural solutions that go beyond the usual expensive vet visits and conventional medications that don't seem to work. Our holistic pet wellness expert will help you finally get to the root cause of the problem so you and your pet can enjoy life itch-free. Welcome back to our podcast. Thank you for tuning in today, and thank you for being such a next level pet parent, taking your pet's health into your own hands. At Bodega, we find that allergies and itchy skin are the #1 wellness concern that pet parents struggle with and seek our support for. So today, we are going to deep dive with a true holistic expert on the topic, Julie-Anne Lee. Julie-Anne Lee is a homeopath and the founder and formulator of one of our absolute favorite pet brands, Adored Beast Apothecary. She is an absolute powerhouse in holistic pet care and has been the owner and practitioner of some of the busiest and long-standing holistic veterinary hospitals in North America. If you are tired of seeing your dog scratching and just want to find a natural solution that actually works, make sure to listen to this whole episode as Julie shares lots and lots of tips with us that are very practical and very easy to implement. Thank you so much for joining us today, Julie, to talk about natural solutions for pet allergies and itchy skin.
You're very welcome. It's a big topic.
Yes.
It's a very, very big, important, super important topic.
Honestly, it's one of the #1 questions that we get at Bodega is how to naturally support dogs and cats with itchy skin and yeast and allergies. So we're super excited to be diving into that with you today and to get your expert opinion on natural solutions that actually work.
It's a nice segue into the podcast too, because it was the first product that we launched. And that came from a place where I went to a vet conference in the US, and there was a really lovely veterinarian from the SPCA and talking about just rescue and the SPCA and things like that. I was floored when she said the #1 reason for deaths in dogs was cancer, but the #1 reason for elected euthanasia was skin disease. And in that moment, I mean, I had been seeing tons and tons at my practice, but in that moment, I just thought something's wrong. There's something very wrong.
Yeah.
If this, I mean, I could see why it would be the #1 reason, because animals, when they get skin disease, it is a horrific. They're always itchy, they're suffering, they smell, people are spending a fortune and not getting anywhere, just keeps this vicious circle, trying everything, so I understood why it was people elected to euthanize. Dogs are walking around with cones on their heads. They're in life, and oh my God, don't put them up on the couch because they smell, they stink, they're oozing, they're this, they're that. It's like, what kind of life is that for anything, So
Yeah, and also like the hurt and the pain for the pet parents as well to see your dog suffering like that. It's also really heavy. And thankfully, we haven't had this experience with our own dog, but we have taken care of foster dogs before who have had really bad skin, and it's so painful to watch. All right, so let's dive right in. Can we just talk a little bit about the word skin disease? Because, honestly, like when pet parents get in touch with us personally at Podega, they always mention allergies. I
Allergies.
don't think anyone has ever messaged us about skin disease. I think it's a term that a lot of veterinarians don't really use.
No.
So, at what point would you say, does a dog have skin disease? Do you also include just itchy skin into that term, skin disease, as well?
I do. I do. Anything for me, anything that is the disease is expressing through the skin, whether that's an allergy, whether that is, something caused from their immune system, something that's even like a chemical reaction to something, a reactivity. And the reason I use skin disease is because I feel personally that most of the diagnosed allergies are misdiagnosed. They're not true allergies. They are either a sensitivity, a reactivity to food, where the body is reacting or sensitive. It's not a full-blown allergy to, but it looks like it is. Like, don't tell me my dog's not allergic to beef because every time I feed him beef, he blows out hot spots. Well, that very well could be that he's sensitive or reactive to beef, not a full beef allergy, but it looks exactly the same. Or like I said, a secondary skin infection from environmental sensitivities. So when I talk skin disease, I'm using skin disease as a blanket statement.
Mhm.
Any kind of autoimmune, immune mediated allergies, food sensitivities, and it manifests through the skin rather than arthritis or rather than heart disease or rather than inflammatory bowel disease. It manifests in the ears or on the skin. And that's a term that a lot of holistic vets are using rather than an allergy, because more often than not, they're not real allergies. So coining the term an allergy, as I think vets use that as a method or an easier way to communicate to pet parents so that they kind of get the idea that if your dog keeps eating beef, he's going to keep getting itchy.
Yeah.
Right. But for me is why is it itchy? And what I saw in practice, and I'm not joking, I mean, 25 years of it, is animals that couldn't eat anything, right? They couldn't even eat the vet prescribed allergy foods anymore because nobody ever dug deep enough to deal with the real issue of what was going on. And then eventually they just become sensitive or allergic or reactive to almost everything, because you're really not addressing and at the core level of why they're having these skin symptoms.
Lots of pet parents feel really lost when it comes to understanding their dogs' and cats' allergies and what is actually causing this to happen. Can you help us get a clearer picture of why allergies and itchy skin are so common in pets and what is going on right now? Is there anything unique going on with our pet's immune system or the environment that is causing their symptoms?
So before we start, I really want to make a strong statement that I feel like it's important to empower people with that knowledge. But empowering people with that knowledge is not about guilt, right?
Yes.
Because I remember being in my hospital and people coming to me and me, explaining my philosophies on what's going on and, talking to them about things that I've gone for to conferences about and putting two and two together and, just everything that I'm learning and trying to just teach that to people. And a lot of people feel a lot of guilt You know, when you really break it down to the possibilities of what's causing things, to the possibility of what might be contributing to allergies and skin disease, people feel like they have caused it, you know, and that's not what this is about. In any way, shape, or form. People that are
Absolutely.
watching this podcast right now are dedicated to their animals and love their animals, and there's zero reason for any kind of feeling bad or feeling guilty.
Definitely.
I think that when we look at animals and we look at skin disease in general, even children with eczema. So let's start with that, because we can break that down into things that are pretty easy for people to understand. So a lot of children get really bad eczema, and what they've linked it to sometimes is that the lungs are the last organ to grow, right? To actually mature in the fetus and in the infant. And that if the lungs aren't fully matured, which you wouldn't know when the child is born if they're able to breathe and everything, but if they aren't fully matured, your skin breathes. And your skin is the largest organ on any body, whether it's a horse, a cow, a dog, a cat, a pig, person, doesn't matter. So what a big part of the research went into is that the detoxification that the lungs normally do can't do. So the detox comes out through the skin, right? So there's a link there. So as a homeopath and someone that's really dug into dermatology and really dug into skin disease, because it's such an issue and such a thing that they suffer with, one thing I can say is it's not topical. It's not something that's attacking the outside. There are things that can contribute from an external perspective, like environmental allergies, or, you know, putting stuff on your sofas and soaps and things like that. Bathing can exacerbate the situation, but the issue's coming from a much deeper level. So when you just take the mindset of addressing skin disease topically, it never works. It just suppresses the symptom for a very short period of time, and then they come back. So I feel like we just need to look at, you know, I always say that the, you know, Canada food guide is like 25 years too old. But when you look at, you know, what doctors are telling us in the last maybe, you know, 5 to 10 years about our own health, is eat fresh fruits and vegetables. When you're going grocery shopping, grow shop on the outside of the store, not so much the processed section, on the, you know, fresh fruits and vegetables and meats and things like that. A cell is a cell is a cell. So a cell in a dog, a cat, a person, a horse. What causes cell death, cell disease is, or being unwell, is the same thing that it causes with people. So when we dig into looking at animals and what they're fed, it's a big one. It's a massive one. We're feeding dogs and cats dead food. It's truly that simple. It's processed food. It's no different than you going and opening up a box of, I'm just going to use Kraft Dinner as an example, and just eating Kraft Dinner and nothing else, or eating Kraft Dinner and taking a multivitamin and mineral, right? So that you're getting scurvy or, you know, a deficiency. It doesn't keep you thriving. It keeps you alive, but it doesn't do anything for cell oxidation, doesn't do anything as prevention. It doesn't do anything for aging. It doesn't do anything. It just keeps you alive. So we feed our animals that. And even if they're putting everything it says on the bag in there, you just can't negate the fact that it's dead food, and nothing is going to thrive eating that. So that's look at that as a baseline. And then you add on to that lots of different things, like vaccinating too often. I'm not against vaccinations. I'm against over vaccinations. Against vaccinating puppies and kittens too young, which sets off the whole autoimmune response of vaccines, so that the body winds up attacking things that it shouldn't attack because it already has an antibody. So you look at that. Then you look at all of the flea and tick medications that we're putting on them. And then you look at, them going on antibiotics all the time because they start getting itchy and then they get secondary infections. So it's layers. Skin disease is layer after layer after layer after layer after layer. So the body is trying to detoxify what's going on. And when it's coming out on the skin, it's the least life-threatening organ. So it's interesting because the body is still quite vital when it's trying to push out toxins through the skin. It still means it's vital. But when we continue to try and suppress those symptoms that are coming out on the skin, what we actually in fact do is push it down into a deeper disease. So whether that deeper disease comes from, the side effect of a drug like liver disease or kidney disease, it's allergies and skin disease is a manifestation of many, many, many things. But it's also, they're often born with it. When we look at causations, a puppy or a kitten can be born already set up to have skin disease because they're born with a very, very weak gut microbiome. So if the mother's been fed, processed food and doesn't have any live food or has been given a lot of drugs or antibiotics, their microbiome is really unhealthy. Therefore, the puppy and the kitten its microbiome will be unhealthy. And why that's important is because the microbiome directly affects sometimes even up to 90% of our immune system and your animal's immune system. And you think, okay, well, why is it immune system and skin disease? Well, for many reasons. One, if the immune system is too high, which is called autoimmune, that means that the body has been debilitated for a length of time that then it becomes overreactive. And that's when you see a lot of the allergies, is because the body goes into a state of overreactivity. Or if they have, some kind of pruritus or seborrhea or skin reactivity, which is very different than an allergy. If they are reactive to, certain proteins, and then they itch, and then they cause a lesion. If their immune system is too low, then they get secondary staphylococcus. So they get skin infection, bacteria, that then causes it to spread. So then you wind up with two different things. So it's vital in skin disease that the gut is healthy in order to treat skin disease, in order to prevent skin disease. The gut is a major factor.
Yeah. And you already touched up on the importance of looking at gut health when addressing the root cause of allergy-like symptoms or symptoms of skin disease. So let's dig a little bit deeper into that, because gut health is really the foundation of health just in general. So, for anyone who might be new to this topic of gut health, can you break down how the gut directly impacts things like skin health and reduction of allergy symptoms or a flare up of allergy symptoms?
So I don't know if people have heard about leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut syndrome is a term that was titled that or named that because that's exactly what happens. You could refer to leaky gut as gut trauma, to dysbiosis, to there's different words that mean very similar, fragile mucosal lining, gut junctions. There's all kinds of different ways of approaching that. But I think for people to understand, what happens is that your gut should be this very fine-tuned system that communicates to your entire body, right? To the skin cells, to the brain cells, to the kidney cells. It is the conductor of the symphony of every system of the body. So it is the largest detoxification process and the first detoxification. So if you ask someone, so what organs of your body detoxes? The most people will say their liver and the kidneys. It isn't. It's the gut. Well, it's actually the skin first and then the gut. So when the gut is supposed to be able to process bacterias, pathogens, viruses, and contain them, calm them down, and remove them out of the body while breaking down food and producing nutrients in microscopic amounts that then goes through the mucosal lining or the junctions of the gut into the bloodstream and metabolizes everything and feeds us, right? When the gut becomes traumatized through antibiotics, the overuse of drugs, stress, processed food, there's a million different things that happens where the friendly bacteria becomes eliminated and then pathogenic bacteria just get out of hand, and yeast and all those things that should be contained and regulated by friendly bacteria, which is bacteria that metabolizes our food, breaks down, converts a carrot into a vitamin, short chain fatty acids, all of that stuff. But when it becomes imbalanced, if you think of a cheesecloth and you think how it strains things and tiny, tiny little things, that's what it's supposed to be like. But when the gut becomes it becomes inflamed when there's an imbalance of the microbiome. And then it stretches because it becomes stiff and it stretches open. So then everything goes into the bloodstream in macro amounts. So let's say, just to begin with, the first thing that does happen that you can't see in an animal or a person is we become deficient in our nutrients.
Mhm.
Because our nutrients aren't being metabolized in a form that is bioavailable to that we can function with and thrive with. So it goes through in a macro amount along with all the pathogenic bacteria, all the drugs, all the things that should be contained in the gut and passed out of the body in feces. It goes into the bloodstream and then the body goes, "Holy man, what is going on? This is not supposed to be up here. This isn't supposed to be up here. That's not supposed to be up there." And in that moment, if your dog is eating beef on a regular basis or rice on a regular basis or whatever on a regular basis, and that macro is going through, slipping through undigested, the body is going to start having a sensitivity or a reactivity to that protein because it's what it's supposed to do, because that thing's not supposed to be in the bloodstream.
Mhm.
But if you don't address, if you just go, okay, your dog is sensitive to beef, let's put him on turkey. But then the same thing is going to wind up happening with the turkey if you don't wind up slowing down and healing the gut mucosal lining. That's one basic thing. What's really bad is that if you allow this to keep happening and then you give more drugs and more drugs and more drugs, and all that stuff's getting filtered into the bloodstream, the body finally goes, "Holy, we don't know what to do. So we're just going to attack everything, including our healthy cells, including our adrenal glands, including our kidney cells, including our skin cells, including and then it becomes hyperactive or overreactive, which is autoimmune disease. When the body goes into an autoimmune state, veterinarians have to give or do give immune suppressive drugs like Atopica or prednisone or Venectil P or blah, 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 blah. What that does is it says to the body, whoa, you do not have to react. In fact, we're going to take your immune system, we're going to shove it right down into the garbage can. We're going to suppress that immune system right down. But then what happens is the dog is itching or the cat's itching. It has no recourse and nothing to fight against bacteria then because it's immune suppressed.
Mhm.
Then they have to give antibiotics. Then the antibiotics destroy all the natural flora in the gut. It can't differentiate between friendly or bad, wipes out the gut, and the whole thing just keeps going. So I'm not suggesting that you never go on Venectil P, you never go on prednisone, you never go on antibiotics. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that you deal with it if it's really, really bad, but you also deal with the core issue of what's going on. You don't pretend that it's not there because it clearly is there. Because then what happens was when they come off of Atopica or they come off of a steroid, this is what happens. Here's the body. The body's in a really, really, really high state. So it's over here. It's pushing. The prednisone and the immune suppressive drug knocks it right back like this, knocks it right down and it holds it there. Well, the disease isn't going away. It's just being pushed down. Soon as you take that drug off, it has a rebound effect. It's just like if you push on someone and then let go of them, it comes back, right?
Mhm.
Or like an elastic. And then it flies back and it comes back with a vengeance. It can be, triple as what it was. So we get a lot of this rebound effect with skin disease, allergies, things like that in people and in animals when the core issue isn't addressed. But if the core issue is being addressed at the same time as that this was like this, then when it comes back up, it's not going to have that same rebound effect because with that rebound effect, the reason it's rebounding is because the core issue hasn't been looked at. But if it rebounds, it's not going to rebound nearly as bad if the healing process has already happened. Right?
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's really hard. And this isn't anything against veterinarians because in their toolbox and how they are being trained is if the animal or the body's in an autoimmune state, you give them an immune suppressive drug.
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily wrong. It's just not looking at the whole picture. It's looking at one thing. And that's what's so awful about skin disease is it's just you're in this constant circle. So when you address leaky gut or gut trauma, the process and the idea is to heal the gut lining and then re-inoculate the gut with friendly bacteria and proper species specific bacteria that will then be prolific in the gut and grow this great microbiome in the gut and reduce the immune system's overreaction on its own because it does have that function. The body and proper probiotics have an immune modulative effect, which means if the immune system goes up, it brings it down. If it goes down, it brings it back up.
So, aside from itchy skin and allergy-like symptoms, what are other common skin symptoms that a pet might have?
Well, yeast, you might go and the vet does a swab on the ear and it comes back that it's The animal has yeast, hot spots, interdigital cysts between their toes, even anal glands. Anal glands are a strong skin symptom, allergy, food reactivity symptom. Um, just constant itching, shedding, over shedding, dry skin. There's lots of different skin symptoms that can happen.
So you definitely brought up the frustration already of like this vicious cycle starting. And we hear this a lot from our customers at Podega of pet parents who are just really frustrated because they keep going back to the vet and they keep, going through all these rounds of medications and they don't really see any lasting results, or like what you mentioned already, they stop the medication and then it comes back even worse than before it started. So it's a vicious cycle, and the medications that we hear the most about are actually Apoquel and Cytopoint, as well as like medicated shampoo for yeast and things like that. So what are your thoughts on these medications, and are they a long-term solution or not?
Mhm. Well, no, they're not, definitely not a long-term solution. Anything that's, an immune suppressive drugs, which other than the topical yeast and the internal yeast medications, which is very different. But the medications for, like you said, Apoquel and Cytopoint, things like that, those are all based to suppress the immune system. So you're going to get the rebound effect. You're going to get all of that stuff. But like I said, if your animal's really, really bad, you can't leave them like that. And I think that, long-term solution, they are not long-term solutions. It's just that simple. I don't know any animal that can have, really good quality of life for long periods of time on immune suppressive drugs. It's really hard some are worse on the liver, some are worse on the kidneys, some of them are really bad on the joints. They are going to create something much deeper, a deeper disease. But I find and I see a lot of times people going, "Oh, I'm just taking my animal off this drug and I'm going to go the holistic route." You just can't do that.
Mhm.
So, because you're going to get that rebound effect and your animal's going to suffer and it's going to not feel well and it's going to take a really long time. I'm of the bel I'm a I don't just believe it. I did it with thousands of patients where they were on drugs when they came to see me. We worked on everything. We did homeopathy, we changed their diets, we did we worked on their gut health, we did everything. And then we slowly weaned them off. As soon as we saw, the animals were accepting all of the supplements and foods and probiotics and herbs and nutraceuticals and stuff, as soon as we saw that things were moving in the right direction, we eliminated for a short period of time what we knew that they were allergic to, because that's important, or sensitive to, because it gives the body a chance to not be in a hyperreactive mode.
Mhm.
But that's when you do that. You,
Mhm.
you do an elimination diet because you're working on other stuff. You're not just eliminating it thinking that it's going to go away because you've eliminated something.
Yeah.
So I'm a big believer, really big believer in doing both, integrating the conventional with holistic, and then slowly weaning them off the immune suppressive drugs. That's not a familiar thing with a lot of people. And a lot of people say, well, you can't do it that way. I have found great success doing it that way. Very, very slow, you know, just kind of like bringing the drug down, continuing to work on the gut, bringing the drug down, working on the food, bringing the drug down, like just doing it really in very, very small steps so that they don't rebound. They don't
Mhm.
detox. They don't, that's a really irritating word for me. I've seen way too many animals go, oh, well, or people, they're going through a detox. It's like, well, look at them. Like, this isn't a detox. They're going through torture. You know,
Mhm.
you don't need to do that. You don't need to detox something, especially an animal that can't say, "Oh yeah, just detox me. I get it. I'll feel sick and I'll feel gross for a little bit." They don't know that. They just feel really sick and gross. So, I don't think it's a long-term solution. Do I think it's the worst thing in the world if your animals are really bad? No, I don't. I just feel like um, you have to integrate all of it if you're going to try and get down to the core reason. And as far as yeast goes, my personal experience with yeast is that you don't want to eradicate yeast, and that's the problem, is that when they give a drug that eradicates yeast, that tries to eradicate yeast, you again destroy so many of the valuable, healthy yeasts and healthy bacterias that fight yeast. So your gut should have all kinds of stuff in it. It should have yeast, it should have your gut, your animal's gut, our guts. It should have yeast, it should have pathogenic bacteria, it should have all of that stuff. But the healthy bacteria keeps it at bay. And I always say that if we walk around the world sterilizing everything, has to be sterile and we can't have this and we can't have that. We knock everything out of balance and we also our gut becomes lazy. And then we don't continue to educate this friendly bacteria and grow more and more and more and more to get healthier and healthier. We just eradicate everything and then get dependent on the drugs. And then finally what always happens with all diseases and all viruses and everything, they become smarter and stronger than the drugs. So it's definitely not a long-term solution, whether it's gonna, eventually destroy their kidneys or their liver. But the other thing too is it doesn't keep them without the skin disease,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It just keeps
Yeah.
coming back and coming back stronger.
Doesn't address the root cause.
Yeah. And then heaven forbid something happens, like your dog has an injury or your cat, something happens and something gets sick, they have to come off the immunosuppressive drugs because
Mhm.
they can't have some massive bacterial infection or viral infection or, Lyme disease or anything like that, where you want to boost the immune system and also have an immune suppressive drug on board.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Take them off of that, and not only are they sick from something else, but then their skin stuff gets bad.
Yeah.
So it definitely, no matter how you look at it, is not a long-term solution unless, let's say you've got a 12-year-old, 13, 15-year-old, very geriatric animal. And for whatever reason, it all of a sudden gets a really bad allergy or a really bad skin disease or whatever. And you know that this animal is not going to be around forever. You're not going to take forever to try and, you know, maybe do another approach.
Mhm.
Probably when you want to do both.
Mhm.
That's called integrative medicine. So you can give a drug to ease their suffering, and then you can give loads of other stuff to protect the liver, protect the kidneys, protect their guts, and to give them the best quality of life. So every age, when you're looking at stuff like that, you don't wanna do it with puppies because then it screws up their immune system forever,
Yeah.
or for a
Mhm.
very long time, and yeah, it's something they don't wanna stay on.
Mhm. Before we start talking about natural solutions that work for allergy-like symptoms and skin disease, I do want to ask you really quickly about allergy, like hypoallergenic food. Is that a long-term solution? Is that a good idea? And also, I want to ask you about allergy and food sensitivity tests. do they actually work, or are they a waste of money?
Right. So, there's not one cookie cutter thing for everything. So again, if something is really bad, you don't have the ability that you have a nutritionist or a store like yours or someone that you can reach out to help you with a diet. Let's say that's one scenario. Then what you do is in the moment, you do what you have to do to alleviate the suffering, and then you start reaching out. You reach out to nutritionists, you reach out to holistic vets, you reach out to people like you go on, you listen to podcasts, you educate yourself, and then you start to put the solutions into place. So, no, vet allergy food, your animal is not going to thrive on that food because in my opinion, it's one thing down from just the regular vet foods. Like it's even more processed. It goes through even more of a altered state that it's even less real food.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sometimes in the moment you don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't have a choice. So you do what you need to do for the moment, but don't do what you need to do for the moment thinking that's the solution, because it isn't.
Yeah.
Definitely isn't. As far as diets, there's a lot of different diets, and depending how bad your animal is, I do recommend reaching out to a nutritionist that they can really narrow down what your animal should have. What I did across the board obviously is that, but I would take, if I knew my animal was sensitive or my patient was sensitive to, I'm going to say beef again, I would remove beef from their diet. I would find the most novel protein I could possibly imagine, whether that's ostrich or emu or something that you're pretty sure that you've never fed them, and give them low starch, right? Because there's always usually a yeast component, and starchy, sugary foods in general create inflammation. And you don't want inflammation. You want to decrease inflammation as much as you possibly can
Mm-hmm.
with any disease, not just allergies or skin disease. So, leafy green vegetables and minimal ones, like maybe just kale and, you could some blueberries and, another green that you don't think that they've had often, or it hasn't been in a food that you've been feeding.
Mm-hmm.
And, clearly vitamins and minerals and putting different things in like that. But something very basic, minimum, and reaching out to either a holistic vet or a nutritionist to help you sort out a diet. But if you know that your animal's allergic to something or sensitive, take that out of their system for 3 months, along with putting in anti-inflammatory vegetables like greens.
Mm-hmm.
So you just do that for a while, and then I would never leave them on it longer than 3 months. Then I would change it right away again, because your gut's not going to heal in 3 months.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is reduce the risk of being sensitive to that protein as well. So you're going to rotate them. And some people would say to me, "Oh, you can't just keep them on one protein for 3 months." Well, you can,
Mm-hmm.
without a problem. I've never had a problem with having a dog, so long as it's balanced, or a cat on one protein for 3 months. So that's what I would recommend. But like I said, if the animal needs to go on something intense, like a food from the vet to begin with, that's fine, so long as you're immediately, like right away, searching for an alternative to that.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously keeping the food either raw or lightly cooked, or maybe even like a freeze-dried
Of
diet.
course. Yeah, the
Yeah.
more whole nutrition, the more antioxidants will be in that food.
Mm-hmm.
And an antioxidant is what fights oxidative stress, inflammation, allergies, food sensitivities, all create huge amount of oxidative stress.
Mm-hmm.
So to reduce that, just that, reducing inflammation in the body will help the gut heal, will help that animal feel better. It's the first thing that you really need to do
Yeah.
is incorporate real food. And like you said, dehydrated or freeze-dried food. If you're really freaked out about raw food, or if your animal is on an immune suppressive drug, you have to be careful. You have to be more careful because they are more sensitive to pathogenic bacteria when their immune system is suppressed. So you can just do cooked food for a while as you're weaning them off.
Yeah.
It's still 100 times better than processed food.
Hey pet parents, quick pause. I want to share something that's made a huge difference in our dog's life. Our sponsor, Adored Beast, creates some of the highest quality all natural pet supplements and probiotics out there. They revolutionized pet health by creating the world's first species-specific probiotics. So whether you have a dog, a cat, or even a horse, they got you covered with formulas tailored to your pet's unique needs. From supporting immunity and easing allergies to helping with joints, skin issues, and digestion, Adored Beast helps you proactively manage your pet's health and cut down on future vet bills with effective natural supplements backed by science. We have been using Adored Beast for over 6 years now with our French Bulldog Milka. She's 9 years old now and she's still as healthy and active as ever. The Adored Beast probiotics, the Jump for Joints, and the Liver Tonic have been essential in keeping Milka free of the typical health issues we often see in older dogs. Honestly, our vet bills are almost non-existent, and we do credit a lot of that to Adored Beast and using these effective natural products all throughout Milka's life. If you're ready to support your pet's health naturally, head over to podega.us to get 10% off your next Adored Beast order with the discount code ABA. Free shipping on qualified orders within the USA. Again, just visit podega.us and use the code ABA for 10% off. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's jump back into today's episode. What are your thoughts on allergy and food sensitivity tests for pets? Do they actually work, or are they a waste of money?
It really depends. There's some newer ones out that are I think a little more accurate. Jean Dodds has a saliva test, Dr. Jean Dodds. I still put a lot of weight into that one, more so than anything else, because it's saliva. So at least it gives you a baseline of what's going on. And if it comes back that there's like reactivity to everything, that's your answer about leaky gut. That just means that everything's being filtered into the bloodstream and into the body system where it shouldn't be. So, but at least you can look at what's the least reactive. So you can choose the vegetables, or you can choose the proteins that are the least reactive. Yeah, I like hers the best. I still think that she's brilliant, and I really support her tests.
Okay. I'll have a look into that. I actually wasn't aware of her having one. We did just do the comprehensive test with the Innovative Pet Lab, which is actually it shows you like if your dog has leaky gut or if your cat has leaky gut, and it gives you like a really comprehensive review about the stage of the gut health. So that is a really good option too.
Yeah, they are good. They are good too.
It won't show what your pet might be allergic to, but it will show if the allergy-like symptoms are related to a gut imbalance or not. So
yeah, I would say, it depends. Everybody has, like, for me, I would always say at my clinic, I'm a bit of a diagnostic nerd, or the more things I have in my hand that I can look at to create a scenario for an animal, the better, if it's not invasive. I don't believe in turning something into a lab rat. I don't believe in doing tests that are invasive or cause things to get even worse. But if cost is an issue and you're looking at different things, I can honestly say that any kind of skin or allergy symptoms will never be I've never seen a negative effect by working on the gut and
Mhm.
and really working on like a leaky gut or a gut trauma
Yeah.
philosophy. And knowing which ones are highly reactive can be very, very, very good when you're doing an elimination diet to get the inflammation down as fast as
Okay.
Mhm.
so that is something. And the cool thing about hers is that you just order the tests. I think you guys could even have the tests.
Okay.
And they just they're done at home, so the animal's not stressed. They don't have to go to a vet clinic. And then you mail them in to Dr. Dodds, and she sends you out a really comprehensive review.
Mhm.
So it's really nice,
Awesome.
lovely that way that the animal doesn't have to go through any kind of stress.
Yeah.
Get some results.
Awesome.
I think with the allergy and food sensitivity tests that are out there, I think it's a really great way to, like as you said, to try to do the elimination diet by staying away from the proteins that the animal is having a sensitivity to.
Mhm.
But I think what should really be clear is that, like, it's not necessarily a long-term solution. So when you do these tests, you should definitely be working with like protocols that what you have. Like, I think really the animals should definitely be on, you know, health supportive supplements and food
Oh, they have
during that
to.
time.
Just like nothing is just taking what they're allergic to out
Hmm.
is not going to fix anything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It just
Yeah.
it isn't. I mean, the amount of people that can't eat this and can't eat that and can't
Hmm.
eat this and can't eat that. And the older they get, the more allergic that they get to everything, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not the solution to the problem. It's a short-term solution to bring inflammation down while you're working on everything else.
Yeah.
So let's start talking about natural solutions. What would you recommend a pet parent does? Let's say a pet has itchy skin. Let's stick to dogs right now, but a lot of the information is going to be similar for cats as well. So if a dog has like chronic itchy skin and other allergy-like symptoms, what would you recommend for that pet parent to do?
Well, I would do a test, and then I would start automatically working with the diet and automatically working with the gut. And what I did want to say before too, what's really important, whether because there's some animals that have environmental allergies, they don't have food allergies. They're allergic to leaf mold, and they're allergic to dust mites, and they're allergic to or sensitive to all of that environmental issues. So here's where it comes into what I talked about at the very beginning on the other podcast about learning about how something that you just wouldn't think would be causing an issue, like a scented candle, like Febreze, like fabric softeners,
Hmm.
like cream that you're even putting on your own body and then hugging your dog, your perfume, your
Hmm.
anything with hormonal disruptors in it can
VLCs.
exacerbate skin disease and environmental allergies beyond imaginable. And the reason it affects animals so fast is because they have a shorter life.
Mm-hmm.
But what it's doing to that animal in a couple of years is going to do to you being exposed to it for many years. So the faster that you get less exposed to it as a human being, the better as well. So paying attention to what you're cleaning your floors with. The
Mm-hmm.
other study that was done was when it comes to yeast and pathogenic bacteria, they breed like crazy on synthetics.
Hmm.
They love synthetics because it doesn't breathe. So when there's a lot of oxygen has the ability to fight pathogenic bacteria and yeast. So you want to try and cover your couches or your rugs if you can for a while. Well, because the focus is getting, like I said, this their dog's cortisol level, which is caused from stress, from being itchy, bring all the inflammation and the cortisol, just calming everything down. And an easy way to do that is by paying attention to what you're cleaning, what you're bathing your animal with, what you're putting on your couches, all of that stuff. Really, really important. You don't think it is, but it actually is. Not bathing them very often. We think, oh, they stink, or they have this, or they have that, or seborrheic shampoos, and all of this, ketoconazole and all the yeast shampoos, is try not to bathe them at all. And if you do have to, we have something on our website. I think you might even have it where you bathe them with just clear water or chamomile tea, and then put a probiotic and yogurt mask on their body. So what it does is it decreases the smell right away, but it soothes their skin, and it actually creates the microbiome to flourish on the skin, which we didn't talk about, because the skin has the same kind of microbiome on it as you do in the gut. Wash them with soap, we are destroying all the natural protection that the animal has to environmental chemicals, to pathogenic bacteria, and it's going to make them itchier. It's going to suppress them. Then they're going to get secondary infection because they have no protection on their skin. So, you can do lots and lots and lots that doesn't cost very much money at all, that you can start right away. And then, like I said, then we work with the gut, right? We diet, and then we work with the gut. So, it's easy for me to say. And it's one of the reasons that I created Leaky Gut Protocol, is because I wanted to give pet parents a solution that was super easy to do, but very complicated, right? Like it's a complicated, what Leaky Gut Protocol does is very complicated, and it's going to take way too long for me to talk about it on this. But in a box, what we've done is put things together. I think in total, there's if you were to buy every herb, every individual probiotic, every individual nutraceutical or homeopathic, I think you would have to go and purchase like 72 different things and have them on your feet.
Wow.
So that just is overwhelming, and how to know that you're sourcing the right stuff and all that. So we put the protocol together in order to make it super easy for people. And it just basically, in a nutshell, it addresses helping to heal the gut lining so that it literally eliminates or stops the reactivity in the body, to break the food down in micro amounts so that the animal's getting nutrition right away before the gut even heals, antioxidants, and then probiotics, all kinds of herbs to soothe the gut. That would be my suggestion right away, is just to do that. Whether you have why spend the extra money to find out whether your animal has leaky gut or not? Chances are they do. If they have any kind of skin symptoms at all, it's it's a very big chance that they have leaky gut.
So you just mentioned the Leaky Gut Protocol, and honestly, we offer it in our store, and we have helped so many animals with allergy-like symptoms. Before a pet parent goes out and they purchase this kit, I think at our store, we usually ask a couple of questions before they go into that direction, because if your dog, or if a dog has certain symptoms, they should actually hold off on doing the Leaky Gut Protocol, and they should probably be doing the Yeast Deep Beast Protocol if they have symptoms of yeast, such as ear infections, yeasty smelling paws, what's the other one?
Red, brown paws.
Yeah, hot spots, red, brown paws. Is that correct? Would you say that?
Yeah, or I have this thing that is called the relief protocol. So it really depends
Yes.
how sick they are, you know,
Mhm.
and how long they've had it. So if your dog has been dealing with Apoquel, immune,
Cytopoint. Mhm.
Cytopoint, immune suppressive drugs for a long time, and it has, more than likely it's got all of it. It more than likely has, like if you have stinky ears or they've done a culture and they found yeast in the ears, or they've got interdigital cysts, or it smells yeasty, or they've got hot spots, chances are they've got yeast. So after working with these protocols for a really long time, it was easy for me to do it at my practice when I was one-on-one with the animals. But what I've found, and it sounds expensive to begin with, but it really isn't, because you're going to use the same amount anyways. Because a lot of times what you would do is you would do the Yeasty Beast protocol first. And because yeast trashes the gut lining, it just destroys the gut lining. Then you'd follow it with a leaky gut protocol, right? So that you would then try and heal you'd eradicate or remove the yeast to a healthy balance. Then you help to fix the gut, because the gut has been trashed by the yeast. But sometimes when that happens, what's a very important thing for people to remember is that there's something called a yeast die-off. And when yeast produces about 36 different toxins, and acetone being one of them, which is what nail polish is. And that's the burning, itching, destroying the skin cells. But when they die, they even produce more. So because they sort of their skeletal system kind of lands in the body. And if you kill them too quickly, you will actually get something called a die-off or a Herx reaction. And then it looks like the yeast is worse. So you take them back to the vet, and then they go on more ketoconazole and secondary bacteria antibiotics, because then they have bacterial infections. When really that's not what's happening. The yeast is dying too quickly, right? So some people might think that's a good thing, but it's not if you're the animal. It's very, very hard on them. So Yeasty Beast protocol was designed that it didn't do that it kills them in a very maintained, controlled way, that they don't get a yeast die-off. Saying that, if this animal has been very suppressed by lots of drugs, they have tons of yeast, sometimes they'll get a die-off. Just even a small amount that they die, they have so much of it, small amount dying will set them into a Herx reaction. So now what I say is to rotate. So you start to destroy the yeast, then you stop, then you start to help to alleviate the trauma in the gut. Then you stop that, and then you put them with the leaky gut protocol. Then you put them back on the Yeasty Beast protocol. And then one thing that I will do too is put Phytosflora in the middle, right? Which gives them a completely different probiotic strain than any other company out there has, which is a dog-specific strain, along with fulvic and humic acid, which is detoxifies the blood in almost like a chelation therapy. So for those of you people that are listening that are just at your wit's end, and your animal has been suffering for a really long time, and you're in this skin disease merry-go-round, because it's horrible, to start off when they're that bad with the relief protocol is sometimes better.
Mhm.
Saying that, they should be on liver tonic throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is that as soon as first of all, the drugs are horrible on their livers. So you want to support their liver healthier. But when these toxins go into the bloodstream, the liver gets really overtaxed. Super overtaxed. And then it tries to push out the toxins through the skin, because it can't handle all the toxins that are in the blood. So you stay on a liver support, whether it's our liver support through, liver tonic, or you go and you purchase another liver support. It's vital that your animal is on liver support the entire time that you're trying to deal with skin disease. It's vital, really important. So I feel like animals that are very sick, it's the easiest, and it doesn't wind up costing more money because you're gonna go on those things later anyways, right? If you go on all the yeasty beast and then you go on all the leaky gut, then you're gonna wind up doing the different probiotics to rotate, right? So you're gonna do them anyway. So it's just gonna be a longer, your products are just gonna last a much longer time.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry because the shelf lives are fine and things like that.
I mean, honestly, to be completely honest, like, yes, if you purchase the relief protocol, all in at one time, yes, it's going to cost a couple $100, but to be completely honest, you will likely be saving so much money
Oh,
because you're going to have a healthier animal that's going to require less vet visits. I mean, we see it all the time. You know, our customers thank us so much because that we have created this kit for them, like bundling all your products together, and they can just click it all in one button. You know,
Yeah, maybe we should
it's
mention what that's called. It's called at Podega, it's called the Allergy and Yeast Relief Bundle. And it is exactly what you just mentioned. It's a leaky gut protocol, yeasty beast protocol, and phytosflora. And
Yeah.
then we even have the option to add the phytosynergy in that as well, right?
yes.
Because that is also a very important
Yeah.
aspect that you mentioned that can help.
Antioxidants, yeah.
Yeah, and so you will likely be saving so much money, and you will likely be having a healthier animal. We see it all the time. Most of the people that do this, they will eventually see the improvements,
Mhm.
and then they will have less vet visits. I
Yeah.
mean, so
Oh, yeah.
it's
I
yeah.
think the most important thing to mention when you, and actually something else that I wanted to mention is I just want to make clear that like the natural solutions that we've just talked about, like the yeasty beast protocol and the leaky gut protocol, they're not medication, because a lot of pet parents use that word a lot even when they speak to us. So these are not medications. These are natural solutions that you can help to address the root cause of the allergy symptoms that you're seeing.
The results take time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because a lot of the times we see, I mean, especially with this protocol, right? It's designed to last several weeks, months, and you may not see the results in one day, 1 week, 2 weeks. It takes time. So I think that
Being
is something
patient,
that
yeah.
we should say about
Mhm.
almost all natural products, right? Like they
Well,
generally take time.
they don't suppress
Exactly.
they work at the core issue. But what I do want to say too is, the amount of money that you spend with a dog that has, or cat that has these kind of issues is astronomical.
Mhm.
And you don't have to, like I said before, you don't have to wait till they're off the drugs,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly.
If you're at a point where like, oh my gosh, I've had to put them on this again, right? It was so much worse this time, and you're concerned, you can start this while they're on the drugs, so that hopefully by the time they're weaned off the drugs or they're coming off the drugs, they're not going to have that rebound effect. Like, it's like, why wait till you're off the drugs and then they're really, really, really bad again, right? Like, let's try and slowly reduce this so that when they come off the drugs, they're not as bad. They still might be worse, but not as bad as if you just take them off and then
Mhm.
expect a natural solution to happen like that, because it's not going to. So why not start earlier? Saying that, you're probably then still going to have to go through more of the protocols again.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, you do save money. There's
Mhm.
absolutely, I mean, I owned 5 veterinary hospitals, so I know the cost of chronic disease, of any kind of chronic disease. But I did want to mention one thing too, is that I've had a lot of conventional vets reach out to me and say, we're so happy that you have this, because we often, well, first of all, they're so busy, they can't handle it.
Mhm.
The veterinary industry right now
Mhm.
is not a happy place because vets are tired, they're overbooked, they can't take the amount of people that have animals. Animals are waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to get in unless it's an emergency. And even then they have to go to the emergency clinic. So I've actually had conventional vets reach out to me and say, this has been a godsend to us because you're not telling them don't go off or just go off their drugs. It's something that is helping us because we don't have a solution. We don't have a long-term solution, and we can't get these animals in fast enough. So, it's a win-win situation really for everybody when considering the state that the veterinary industry is in right now, which is
Yeah.
can't handle the amount of patients and sick animals that they have.
Yeah.
So it's nice to hear that, especially with something like this. And then deal with the real emergencies that you're not going to use holistic medicine for, like hit by cars and broken legs and traumas and stitches and dentals and things that are going to happen and are happening, they can address in a timely manner.
Yes.
So it's yeah, it is from a financial perspective and a stress perspective, there's no downside, like zero downside to doing this.
A lot of pet parents are confused whether or not they should start with the Yeasty Beast protocol or whether or not their dog needs the Yeasty Beast protocol or not. What kind of advice do you have for pet parents that are not sure?
Well, if they don't have a diagnosis for yeast, like if they haven't done a swab or they aren't really stinky, like that real stinky yeasty smell. If you're smelling that smell or you've had a swab, I would start with the Yeasty Beast protocol. And I probably would do, if they've had it for a while, like I said, I would start it. And immediately 2 weeks later, I would do the relief protocol.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure. But if you don't know, you'll find out soon enough because if you do the leaky gut protocol, what can happen sometimes is that it ramps their immune system up so much. It makes them so healthy, so fast that then it starts to eradicate the yeast. It's like, get out of here. The big guns are coming in now. Like you gotta leave. Yeah. So then you could start to see more hot spots, then be a bit itchier. If that happens, you need to get on the Yeasty Beast right away. And you just need to do the relief protocol right away. That will give you your answer. Because if it's just leaky gut, they will heal quite quickly. Not as fast as, like you said, like with drugs, no, but you'll see a difference fairly quickly. If they're really, really, really sick, I can't see how they wouldn't have some type of yeast.
Okay.
So I think the combination of all three is really important.
Some pet parents may be a little bit hesitant to fully commit to natural options and natural solutions to address their pet's allergy symptoms. So what advice do you have for them to feel confident about making the switch?
First, like one of the first things would be that, again, that they're not, they don't feel guilty about it, right? Guilt and fear are what keep us stuck in most of the things that we know we have to do anyways, but we don't do it. So I would say, make a list, look at that list and try and decipher on that list what is causing this merry-go-round to keep going. So are you vaccinating too much? Can you do a titer? You're not jumping the fence if you do a titer, right? So a titer is something that where you take a little bit of blood and it comes back and it says your dog is adequately vaccinated. And then you're not revaccinating them because that can exacerbate all diseases, not just skin disease. Am I good with just incorporating some real food, right? Can I go and do a test with Dr. Jean Dodds, who's a board certified veterinary immunologist, and hormone expert and, a conventional veterinarian. So you're not scared to work with her. I mean, she's one of the biggest veterinary specialists in the world. So look at what you're scared of put it to the side. So let's say raw food. I'm just going to
Mhm.
say it because that is often what happens. People are scared to do raw food. So if you're scared to do raw food, then don't throw holistic medicine out the window, right? It doesn't live in the raw food realm that if you don't do raw food, you can't help your dog, because that's just
Mhm.
simply not true.
Mhm.
You know, find a good cooked food. Try to find your balance and then add to it. So start incorporating real food. Don't vaccinate for a couple of years. Try to reduce the stuff inside your house that's going to benefit you as well as your dog. So that's not getting too holistic, right? You're really just looking at what is comfortable for you. Because like I'm saying, I'm not telling you not to do drugs, right? You can do your drugs and still incorporate all of these great things. You don't have to jump the fence over to the holistic side. You can stay with the conventional side, but start to incorporate stuff at
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
same time. And scientifically, so if they're scared and they want to be really on that science level, natural food is the most real whole food is the most science researched backed mode of health for every species across the board. It doesn't matter what species that is. So that's not even holistic. That's just a fact, and it's just real food.
Mhm.
Gut health is probably one of the most biggest science researched anything right now.
Mhm.
So just those two things, and reducing the amount of insult.
Yeah.
So not as many vaccines, not as much, advantage and topical bug stuff.
Yeah.
Just start a little bit. But for me, would just be, don't negate what your vet's doing. Start with a fresh food diet and addressing probiotics and vitamins, right? Antioxidants,
Yeah.
phytosynergy. So don't have to go crazy.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I think like one of the most important things is to just start with something, start small, start wherever you feel comfortable,
Well,
and then add on that because we've had even like we have this conversation almost on a daily basis at Podega because skin disease is such a big topic and
yeah,
pet parents like we talk about all of the things that we've mentioned today. So we start with nutrition, we start with the allergy and yeast relief bundle that includes the leaky gut and the yeasty beast. And a lot of pet parents will say, look, I don't feel comfortable with fresh food right now, but I'll start with the yeasty beast protocol and the leaky gut protocol. And a lot of times what happens is that they see such amazing improvements with that. They get curious and they say, okay, now let me look at that fresh food and let me see what I can achieve with that. So it's really just about taking that first step wherever you feel comfortable and then
sure.
building up on that.
And I'm really glad you said that, because one thing that I always made in fact, every single new client that came in left with a journal.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And it was like a gift that we gave to them. So write down the pros and cons of everything. Write down what you're most afraid of, what you're most comfortable with. And like you said, just start. And then make a list. Like,
Yeah.
what's on my list? Stopping itching, but not just that. Think back. What was your dog like before its skin disease? Was
Mhm.
it more social? Was it more active? Was it drinking less water? Was it more like engaged? Was it
Yeah.
less reactive to strangers, less reactive to dogs? Write all of that stuff down, because it's really interesting where people will go, his skin's about the same, but you know what? He is playing with dogs again. He's he's running up the stairs again. So things can change that aren't necessarily the skin first, right? The skin can come later, but that shows overall health and vitality, quality of life, interactions. That's important. So, because then you know what might happen? You might look at this one change and go, "Holy." I just changed that one thing and this is happening. If I change this one other thing, then his ears might get better. His skin might start showing improvement. It gives you some confidence.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And just having a journal in general helps so much as well, like where we note down the symptoms that we see on a daily basis. And sometimes, because we see our dogs every day, sometimes small changes might just get unnoticed. But
It's all the time.
yeah.
All the time. Clients would come in and I take real detailed notes, right? So my consults, for some consults were an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. And then I would see them in a month and be like, go through the changes and stuff. And then I'd be like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What? They're like, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
forgot he was even doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm so glad you wrote that down because I didn't remember
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
he was doing that. Yeah, he is. He's sleeping with my 2-year-old daughter again. You know, like
Mhm.
it's really interesting.
Yeah, I think the pet journal is definitely a really, really great advice. So if you're listening, please just it doesn't have to be a physical book. Me personally, I don't have a book. I like to write it in a WhatsApp group or in my notes on my phone, just so I can remember, oh, this is what we did today. Let's see, and then when we have a vet appointment and we need to reflect back, we can say, this happened on this day and
Yeah,
this happened
for
on
sure.
that day.
Yeah,
It helps the vet as well,
it
in case
does.
anything, happens.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a very important part of their healing. Definitely.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And or
Yeah,
environmental allergies, I was just gonna say, like, what parks you go to, right? So
Mhm.
it's
exactly.
like, "Oh, this is so weird." How come Wednesdays they come in and Thursday morning they're itchy, or Thursday morning they have
Yeah.
diarrhea all the time?
Yeah.
Well, the dog walker takes them to this particular park the day
Mhm.
before,
Mhm.
and maybe there's some water,
Yeah.
or a type of tree or a type of leaf mold, or, you can easily then go, "Oh, okay, well, he can't go to that park anymore. Let's find
Yeah.
a different park for
Mhm.
for him to go to."
Or daycare visits as well, noting down that.
Mhm.
Always,
Mhm.
Yeah.
always. Yeah, each year after daycare, well, is he really liking daycare or is he hating
Mhm.
it?
Mm.
Like the stress levels can
Yeah.
cortisol goes up, inflammation goes up, itching goes up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But then you don't
Yeah.
want them to be bored, right? It's a
Mhm.
fine-tuned thing, like, if you really do have an animal with skin stuff and you
Yeah.
really wanna make a difference, it's that thing at the very beginning of the podcast, and I said, like, being aware,
Yeah.
it's just like we rush through our lives
Mhm.
so fast. It sounds like it's a big pain in the butt to do this journal, but you know what it does? It actually makes you more aware. It makes you
Mhm.
Mhm.
present with your dog. It grounds you, just brings you back to what's actually happening today,
Yeah.
Mhm.
rather than just, "Oh, wow, it's 6 o'clock already. Holy moly, where did the day go?"
Mhm.
Mhm.
It kind of brings you into the moment of what you're doing in the day.
Mhm. Yeah, and while we're at that, then also showing some gratitude for whatever, our dog is going through right now, like always finding something to be grateful for
Yeah.
is also, yeah, has helped me in our journey for
For sure.
sure.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, even to be able to sit down and go, "Well, this is amazing. I'm grateful that there's even these podcasts," right?
Mhm.
Because when people were coming to me 25 years ago, there was nothing. They had
Yeah.
no recourse. They had no nothing to
Mhm.
Mhm.
be able to support them through this journey. So being, you know, grateful, and even, grateful that I had the money that I went and spent at the vets. Like, just
Yeah.
get rid of the
Yeah.
guilt and
Yeah.
go, we're just in a different space now, just a different
Mhm.
place now.
Yeah. Well, thank you so, so, so much, Julie, for sharing this wealth of knowledge with us today. It has really been so yeah, amazing to just listen to all of the different ways that we can help our pets and understand pet allergies and allergy-like symptoms, and then go from there, build our natural repertoire, and just yeah, start with doing something that we feel comfortable with and then building up on that. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Can you just let our listeners know where they can find you if they want to connect with you?
Adoredbeast.com or adoredbeast.ca is our
Awesome.
website. And we have a YouTube station, Adored Beast Apothecary.
Awesome. And thank you everyone for listening. If you are ready to get started, definitely do check out the Yeast and Allergy Relief Bundle on podega.us, and make sure to tag both Podega and Adored Beast in your before and after pictures if you do
Yeah.
check any of them out.
Or a pretty big company, but we have pictures like all over our walls and in the where they're packing, and
Mhm.
it's just like, it's great. It's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Especially
Yeah.
those pictures aren't for, they're really inspiration for us to
Absolutely.
keep going, right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
They're real stories.
They
Like
Exactly.
it's really a testament to the products that you've created and all of the stores that you work with, and helping you to get these products out to the animals that need them the most. Because a lot of, like you mentioned earlier, people feel like they've reached the end of the road, and then they discover these products that have just been absolutely transforming to the lives of these animals. So again, thank you. We're so proud to stock the Adored Beast brand in both of our stores, in our international store and our US store.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, I always say that if it wasn't for you guys, that we would be able to be helping, but not nearly at the level that I want to help.
Mhm.